Have you ever left a big conference or a team meeting just buzzing with energy? You feel totally fired up, ready to change the world, but then you wake up the next morning and it's just gone. That feeling has completely vanished. It happens to all of us. But then there are those other ideas, those other leaders that stick with us, not for a day, but for a lifetime. Today, we're going to dig into why that is. What makes inspiration truly last?
So what is it? What's the real difference between that temporary jolt of motivation and that deep, lasting sense of inspiration? Well, it turns out they're not even in the same league. They come from two completely different places. You know, we often confuse big, loud, passionate energy with real leadership. We see someone up on stage yelling and getting the crowd hyped up, and we think, wow, that's what it takes to move people. But so often, that feeling, it's just an illusion. It's a temporary high that doesn't actually create any lasting change.
To really get this, let's look at two famous leaders from Microsoft. First, you have Steve Ballmer. He was famous for his pure, raw energy. I mean, the guy would be running across the stage, sweating, screaming developers, developers, developers at the top of his lungs. And yeah, he could absolutely motivate a room for an afternoon. But then you have Bill Gates. Kind of shy, a little awkward, definitely not a theatrical performer. And yet, when Bill Gates spoke, people hung on every word. His quiet optimism inspired people not just for a day, but for years, for entire careers.
And that right there, that's the whole ballgame. Energy is great for motivation, for a quick boost, but it's charisma that truly inspires. One creates a short-term reaction, the other commands long-term loyalty.
So what is this elusive thing we call charisma? It's not about being slick or charming. It's not a personality trait you're born with. True charisma comes from one thing, an absolute conviction in a purpose that is bigger than you are. It comes from having a crystal clear understanding of your why. Think about it. We weren't inspired by Bill Gates because he loved building software. We were inspired by his unwavering belief, his why, that technology could solve humanity's biggest problems.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Anyone can be told to build a wall. That's the what. It's the task right in front of you. But when you know you're building a cathedral, that's the why. That's the cause, the purpose that makes every single brick you lay feel meaningful. Real inspiration comes from knowing you're building a cathedral.
But here's the thing. Just having a vision of a cathedral isn't enough to actually get it built. To bring a why into the real world, you need a critical partnership. And if you look closely at almost every great movement or company, you'll find these two essential roles. On one side, you have the why type. This is the visionary, the dreamer. They're an optimist who lives in the future, focused on a world that doesn't exist yet. They imagine the destination. And on the other side, you have the how type. This is the realist, the builder, totally focused on the practical here and now. They're the ones who figure out the actual route to get there. One isn't better than the other. You literally cannot have a lasting impact without both.
Just think about Walt Disney. He was the ultimate why guy, the dreamer. But he himself said that without his brother, Roy, he'd probably have ended up in jail for bouncing checks. Roy was the how guy. He stayed in the background, building the financial empire that made all of Walt's incredible dreams a concrete reality.
It's the exact same pattern at Apple. Steve Jobs was the visionary, the evangelist who could paint a picture of a different future. But he needed Steve Wozniak, the brilliant practical engineer, the how type, to actually build the machine that would go on to change the world.
And this isn't just about business. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired a nation with his powerful, transcendent why. He gave people a dream to believe in, but it was organizers like Ralph Abernathy who provided the how. After Dr. King would give one of his soul-stirring speeches, Abernathy would get up and say, "Okay, now let me tell you what that means for tomorrow morning." He was the one who turned a beautiful idea into a tangible movement.
Okay, so you have your why. It's clear, it's powerful. Now what? How do you actually communicate it? How do you find and rally the people who believe what you believe? Well, this is where two simple ideas come in, the megaphone and something called the Celery Test. I want you to picture your organization, or even just your career, as a giant megaphone. At the very top, that small, focused part you speak into, that's your why. That's your core belief. In the middle section is the how, your systems, your culture, the actions you take. And then, coming out the big wide end, is the what, your products, your services, everything the outside world sees and hears. The whole thing exists to amplify your why.
But here's the catch. If the message you put in at the top,
your why, is fuzzy or unclear, then all you're doing is amplifying noise. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on marketing, how loud you shout. If people can't tell what you believe, the message just won't land. You have to have clarity before you can have volume.
This leads us to a really practical tool. You know, we're all told to follow best practices. Look at what the successful companies are doing and just copy them. But that's a trap. What works for them might be a disaster for you because your why is totally different. So if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by all the good advice out there, this is for you. Imagine you're at a dinner party, and all these smart, successful people are giving you tips.
One person tells you you absolutely have to get M&Ms for your business. Another one swears by rice milk. A third says, no, Oreos are the real key to success. And a fourth insists you need celery. It's all good advice from people you trust, so you go to the grocery store and you buy everything. You spend a ton of time, a ton of money, and you end up with a shopping cart that makes absolutely no sense.
But what if you had filtered all that advice through your why before you even went to the store? The reason this matters for you is that a clear why acts as a filter, and it simplifies everything. So let's say your why is super simple, to only do things that are healthy.
All of a sudden, the decision is obvious. It's effortless. You instantly know to buy the rice milk and the celery. It's not that the M&Ms and Oreos were bad advice. They just weren't right for you. That's the Celery Test. It's a filter for every single decision that saves you time, money, and stress.
And here's the most powerful part of all. When you get to the checkout line with just rice milk and celery in your cart, anyone standing behind you can look at what you bought and know instantly what you believe. They can see, oh, this person is healthy. Your actions have become tangible, visible proof of your why. So, I'll leave you with this thought. Everything you do, every product you launch, every service you offer, every single decision you make, it's an item you're putting in your shopping cart for the entire world to see. So the question is, when people look in your cart, what will they know you believe?